Okay, wonderful. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Surviving versus thriving. This is what we're going to do today. And envision together sustainable future of festivals. And we have a great panel with great festivals on stage for you. Because basically, reinvention is the blood of every festival. You have to acquire your new clients, but you have also to retain the old clients. And together, we're going to explore this, how to do this with the large-scale desert event. You all know it, certainly, the Burning Man. We have also the global digital art and electronic music giant MUTEK from Canada. We have also the largest music festival in Northern Europe, Roskilde, here on stage. And at the end, I will also present you the results of a European study for the sustainability and new business models for digital arts organizations in Europe, which is highly correlating with the festivals also. But first of all, let me present you my guests. It's a fantastic panel that we have here. We will have Steven Raspa from San Francisco. He's the Associate Director of Community Events for the non-profit Burning Man project. He's also a founding member of the Burning Man Regional Network Committee and Regional Events Committee. He's an artist, a community organizer, and he supports a network of over 100 regional events internationally. Welcome, Steven, to be with us today. This is wonderful. Thank you. Next to Steven, hold on. It's many layers on the cake today. So then we have Christine Barenbold-Bruun from Copenhagen. She's the head of the Circular Lab at the Roskilde Festival, which is Denmark's largest testing platform for sustainable startup companies. It's really interesting because the lab uses the Roskilde Festival and other events to test circular products and business models also that can contribute to a greener transition. And Christine has been working in the field of sustainability for more than 12 years, so she's a great expert. Welcome, Christine. Then next to me, Sarah Mackenzie, all the way from Montreal. She's a cultural producer, documentary filmmaker, media arts curator. She's working at the forefront of art, technology, and social good. Yes, you are. And you are also currently the creative director of MUTEK Forum, where she oversees the programming of the festival's annual art and technology symposium. It's more the professional networks, if you like, which is behind MUTEK. And yeah, I think that you're coming also with a great background of working with brands and etc. So we have a very rich panel. Thank you, Sarah, to be here. And last but not least, yes, I will be your moderator and your host for this session today. I'm AC Coppens. I'm the founder of The Catalyst. We are a very small agency, boutique. We work in business development, curation of conferences, moderation, at the very intersection of digital media on the one hand and creative content, which is film, music, sound, design, arts, everything which is exciting, we love to dig into. And thank you to my team also to have brought me there. Thank you. Okay, good. So I would say, let's go. Let's start directly and see. We have presented for you, prepared for you, small presentations of 10 minutes each, and I am the chief time officer. I will make sure they don't go over 10 minutes, and so that you can really dig into this. And after that, we will have a small panel of 20 minutes to dig into the questions, and then we will see if you have questions. Okay? Let's go. Steven, please. The stage is yours.
Dankeschön. Thank you, AC. I want to give you a little overview of our operating model and then speak about at least 5 points of sustainability. First, Burning Man is a little different than the usual festival production model. We don't book any acts, we don't have any main stages, and instead our model is creating a temporary city for our 75,000 citizens to come and bring the content and experiences that they want to have and to share with others. In our city, we provide the urban plan, get the insurance, the permits, work with the federal and local agencies. There is nothing for sale except for ice to avoid food spoilage and because it makes frosty drinks in the beverage and in the desert, and that is quite nice. We provide about 1,800 portaloos. There are no trash cans at all. which brings me to the next point. We are the largest leave no trace event in the world. So the first point is environmental sustainability. And some people might be surprised to know that a bunch of freedom-loving artists going out and burning art in the desert are actually very strong environmentalists as well. One of our 10 principles is leaving no trace, and we endeavor to leave places that we gather at least as clean as they were, or in preferred cases, better than we have found them. So members of our community clean up after themselves. They pack in and pack out everything that they bring, and they must leave no trace of their activities. They also bring their own cups, and they can go to any of the theme camps. There are bars, restaurants, nightclubs, meditation areas, yogas, all sorts of things, but you must bring your own cup if you want to get a drink at any of them. Next slide. A tool that we use that proved very effective in making our community desire to join us in leaving no trace was what we call the MUP map. We call MUP is matter out of place, and everything in the desert is matter out of place except what started there. So to encourage members of our community to join us in this leaving no trace ethic, we created this map to show each year how the different themes did and how we did as a community. And the first time we did this, there were more red spots, which mean that there were areas that our playa restoration team had to spend more time cleaning up. But over time, we have gotten very good as a community of leaving no trace of our activities. And then we have a small team that remains up to a month after and makes sure that we don't leave anything. No wood chips, no cigarette butts, nothing. Next slide. We also have as regular operations recycling camps and composting camps. We organize a burner express bus, which probably removes about 10,000 cars each year from driving there. Next slide. But really, these things are not enough in the world that we live in which climate crisis is a very real and dangerous thing for the planet and over 1 million species that face extinction at this point. So in 2019, we did a carbon footprint survey to understand what our carbon impact is for our event, and we declared a 2030 sustainability roadmap or challenge to get to a point where it is better for Burning Man to exist for the planet than if we did not. That is our goal. And there's 3 parts to it. One is no matter out of place, or to handle waste from before people get there to when they come there and after, to be regenerative and to create a positive ecological and environmental impact. And the third part is to be carbon negative and remove actual carbon from the environment more than what we put in. One of the ways that we do that is by our relationship to permanent land now. We own a few pieces of property, and this is one Fly Ranch, which is very special to us. And in 2020, we launched a land art generator initiative and invited people to submit proposals that combine creativity with environmental sustainability initiatives. And we selected 10 of those projects, but there's probably about 50 different sort of technologies or techniques addressing things like environmental restoration on the property, and looking at alternative forms of energy. We have geothermal potential there, as well as solar and wind, for example. Next slide. But we really can't meet this goal alone. For us, we take a very decentralized approach and a community approach to doing just about everything. And the only way we will get to be carbon negative by 2030 is if everyone in our community joins us in this. So looking at everything from waste to power to transportation to food and water conservation, we have been taking steps such as in 2019, during COVID, we invested our time and energy into building solar panels. You see here one that functions as stage and is also a battery charging station for artists to get their art projects on solar and avoid independent generators. We also have held green theme camp summits so that members of our community can share best practices, and created a certification where they can rate themselves, and also an open source Thrival guide to share ideas on how we can all together meet that 2030 goal. This year we also did something, we've always had kind of an alternative energy zone at Burning Man, but this year we expanded that to a whole kind of green corridor, and we placed theme camps in a quadrant of the city to, in some ways, function almost like a clean energy and green technology accelerator or incubator, and to share best practices. And it's our hope that eventually this quadrant will swallow up and spread to the rest of the city. Another aspect of sustainability for us, and this is maybe a little different than a standalone festival, is that we really think about the sustainability of our global culture. And two groups help us, in a way, create a grassroots approach to sharing the culture and the principles and the things that we care about with others in the world. One is Burners Without Borders, which is a grassroots volunteer initiative that provides disaster relief and community resilience projects. And the other is the Burning Man Regional Network, which is made up of about 240 kind of cultural ambassadors or regional contacts around the world, over 100 regional events that operate independently according to Burning Man's 10 guiding principles. These are independently organized, but we support and encourage them with sharing knowledge and just connecting everybody as a global community. Be resilient. So this is probably my third message. This is an image of our much publicized this year by the media mud apocalypse at Burning Man, where it rained for several inches in a short period of time. But I have to say there's a double rainbow to every challenge. And in our community, we have principles of radical self-reliance, but also communal effort and working together. And this was a year where being in the moment and open to the experience unfolding and working together really shined. And many people said this was their best edition of Black Rock City, and that it really returned to our cultural values of working together as a community. And you know, I think part of resilience is learning from these challenges and getting stronger from them. And so it's our hope, actually, that after having a year of very intense heat the year before and dust and a year of mud, that maybe this will attract people that are really driven by the idea to co-create culture and live in community, and a little less of an Instagram consumption mentality. And we did get to burn the man. Do we have time for a 2-minute? Okay, I'll show you. Oh, actually, there's a little bit more here. Another point. Go to the next slide, please. Another point I wanted to make is just the importance of creating an inclusive environment for new ideas as well as new people to step into leadership. And you might think about, if you normally take a very curatorial approach to things, if you really want to be sustainable and relevant, you have to listen to what is your base, what are the things that your participants and future participants are going to want to have, and do they see themselves in the experience? And part of that for us is very important to include kids. We are an all-ages event. We will always be an all-ages event, and part of that is because we really want to be a cultural movement that includes future leaders. And my last point of the 5 is to figure out how to keep making it fun. Because if it's not fun, it gets tiring fast, and you risk burnout. This, by the way, is a billion rabbit or bunny march to protest humanity, because it doesn't matter if you come from the right or the left, all of humanity is equally terrible at being caretakers of the planet. So it has an environmental message, but it's also completely absurdist theater. And now there's a short video that can just show you a little bit of some of the art that was on, at Burning Man this year. I should say that this year, a third of the art that Burning Man funded, we fund about 70 projects a year with a budget of about $1.2 million US. And a third of those projects this year had an environmental subject of some kind or another or incorporated recycled materials. This was a fabulous project from Ukraine. This is made out of water containers. This piece is about displacement from hurricanes in New Orleans. One of our mutant vehicles. That piece is going to, no dancing piece is being put up in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco for about a year now. So here you see the rain, you see it drying up, you see it becoming a pedestrian city and people actually walking around and talking to their neighbors instead of partying really hard all the time. This piece had an environmental message. It included animals and species that have gone extinct in the last 12 months. So there you have a little overview of some of the ways that we've been thinking about sustainability and trying to stay on course with our values.
Thank you, Stephen. I think we're going to make all the questions at the end so that it makes a little bit more sense for everyone to see, to have an overview of all of what these great festivals are doing on the whole. Okay? So, Christine, would you like to go on? I think it's a very good way to go on after what we've seen. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Stephen. I think, yeah, okay, there I have we have access to the slides. I think I'm gonna stand here because I can't see my slides from that position. So if it's okay for you, I'm gonna be here.
It's totally okay.
And glance a little bit towards the screen. Well, okay, so I started with this question: what difference can we make for the new generations and our planet? And that's because that's the question that we are asking ourselves all the time at Roskilde Festival. We are a festival with 130,000 people, and we do make an impact, not always a good impact, because we also affect the environment. So this question is what we have been asking ourselves a lot lately. And not just in terms of the environment, but we have learned from researchers that young people are at risk of losing the ability to imagine a positive future. Now think about that. That's really sad that young people are lose this ability to imagining a better future. And therefore our goal is to create hope and demonstrate that change is possible. And that's something that is going through all the projects that we do at Roskilde Festival these years. So of course we do things to achieve a better, to lower our footprints and all of that. But it's the overall headline is always this: how can we make sure that we can contribute to keeping this imagination ability at our young guests at Roskilde Festival. Can we change? So this is just a survey I brought to you that we did for our guests at Roskilde Festival. I think it's pretty interesting because it shows that 35% of all of our guests is pessimistic about the future. And you can also see that if you look at the group under 26, the percentage is larger. And for us, that has been very interesting to know these numbers of what our young guests are feeling. Change, please. This is some of the things they said during the survey. They say that it's difficult to imagine a better world. They have a large tendency to like a negative definition, which means when we ask them how they could imagine a better world, they tend to say, We just want to have a world without the crisis that we have today. They don't come up with new imaginations. They don't come up with new wild and crazy things that they dream about. They just want a more peaceful world without the crisis, a world where we live in a better harmony with nature, and a world where you don't have to have a bad conscience all the time. So we took this input, and can you change, please? And then we created a lot of initiatives, and these two initiatives are the ones that I'm going to talk a little bit about today. The first one is how we are trying to become a circular festival, and the next one is the Circular Lab that I have initiated a couple of years ago. Yeah, again. So just very short, we're a non-profit organization, just to give you a very brief intro. All of our profit goes to charity projects for children and youth. And in short, we like to look at ourselves as someone who helps bring young dreams into life. We are Denmark's largest city, the fourth largest city for 8 days. And the first festival was held back in '91, so we have been, we had our 50 years anniversary a couple of years ago. Just some key facts where you can also see that we actually make an, sometimes also a bad environmental impact. We use a lot of, we have 1,500 ton of waste. We use a lot of diesel, we eat a lot of food, and if you can change again. We had an increase in our waste for the last 20 years. But actually, you can see here that in 2019, it started to change. And in 2022, we had a 25% reduction. Slide, please. So what we did from 19 to 22 was to, we implemented rental solution, because our camping equipment is the largest source to our waste. About 40% of our waste comes from camping equipment, which is crazy. And when people go to festival, they always tend to buy these really crappy solutions for like next to nothing, because they know that it's going to break anyways, and then they're just going to leave it there. So we found some nice solution of good quality tents and pavilions and stuff like that, that hopefully can last a lot of years. We outphased all of our diesel-fueled generators. And did a lot of other initiatives, but we are not there yet. We're still working on these things, and we find some of it really hard. But we are on our way. We are on a good path, I think. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Circular Lab, which is also an initiative we created to inspire the young people, our guests, and to give them a chance both to live out their dreams and to get inspired. I come from a background where I have helped companies all of my professional life to get sustainable solutions out in the market. I work with city development, with companies who are trying to create sustainable cities. And when I first talked to Roskilde Festival about how we could use this Denmark's fourth largest city to experiment with new solutions, they were just totally keen about it and let me in right away. We found out that if young companies with circular solutions can use Roskilde Festival to test out their solutions, they can get so much data from all the people visiting, all the 130,000 guests, and they can do it in a very forgiving environment where they don't get judged. And they can do it outside normal cities where they tend to meet walls of regulations and rules. It can be very difficult to be allowed to test out your products in already established environments. But in Roskilde Festival, we have the city where we decide ourselves who we can live in. So the last couple of years, we have invited 40. First year was about 30 companies, young startup companies. This year it was about 40, and our aim is about 50 companies next year. So we invite them into the festival, and then we help them to make a test plan and make sure that they get the right data when they are there. So when they're done with the festival, they can do adjustments to their product, to their business model, and make an even better solution before they go to market or before they apply for investment. A lot of them come back at the festival or at other of our testing platforms to test again. So they go home, they do the moderations they need to do, and then they come back and test the new version, and they can do that until they are ready. Next slide, please. So actually, it became the largest testing platform in Denmark for circular solutions. And we are doing this to give the young startups the possibility to shape the sustainable future they're dreaming about. We found out that there are really not a lot of other places for them to test their solution. And you can't have a startup and succeed if you don't get to test your product first. Just very brief, who gains what from this initiative? Well, obviously the startup companies gain insights, valuable data that they can't get anywhere else. Roskilde Festival gets an easy access and knowledge about new circular solutions. And some of the solutions has actually already been implemented at the festival. And our guests, they get inspired to change behavior. They get optimistic about the future when they meet these startup companies and talk with them about their really cool circular solutions. We did a small survey with our guests, and 90% of the guests who actually had a dialogue with one of our startup companies said that they would change behavior and go for a product like that at the festival or when they came back to the regular society. So we are really trying, our focus is really to, when we have 130,000 guests at the festival, then it's really important for us that we do not only focus on becoming circular or sustainable ourselves, we also want to create an impact, and we want to give inspiration to the young people so that they can feel inspired and go back home and change the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Wonderful. Very inspiring, these Circle Collab Labs. Thanks for sharing with us. Sarah, you're the next.
Yes, I'm
Let's
also
go.
going to stand.
Yes, please do.
Yes. Okay, well, hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Sarah McKenzie. I'm from MUTEK Festival, and I'm here to talk about Future Festivals, which is not to be confused with the Future of Festivals conference, where we are today. It's a lot of future, it's a lot of festivals, but we'll get through it. So I wanted to start off by quickly just saying a few words about MUTEK. How many of you have been to MUTEK before? Okay. Not that many of you. I understand, it's very far. So MUTEK is a non-profit organization, and it is a festival that is dedicated to the dissemination and the development of sound and music and audiovisual art. You can go to the next slide, please. And it was founded in the year 2000. Next slide, please. And now it has transformed into a global festival series that has chapters all over the world. So you can find the MUTEK Festival also in Tokyo, in Barcelona, in Mexico City, and many more cities. And on top of that, the festival takes shape in many different ways. So it is a multi-venue festival. We do have outdoor portions of the festival, but we also do kind of large-scale audiovisual performances in performance halls, raves. Everyone loves a rave. And we also do immersive experiences and exhibitions, as well as the MUTEK Forum, which is an art and technology symposium that takes place concurrently to the music programming. And in this forum, we like to talk about topics like art, technology, music, etc., through a critical lens, investigating the role of technology within artistic practice. And within these conversations, we talk a lot about the future and the roles of festivals within them. And our thesis statement is that festivals are vital nodes in our cultural infrastructure. And I know I'm standing here talking to a bunch of people who work in the festival ecosystem, so this isn't news to you, but what we find is that a lot of people take festivals for granted, and they don't necessarily understand all of the work that goes into the organization, production, and logistics behind them. And so for people who are attending festivals, they are necessary pilgrimages for rejuvenating souls and for connecting with others and for consuming art and music. But for the people who are working behind the scenes, they can be a constant struggle. And so I decided to inject a little bit of artificial intelligence into this presentation, because why not? So these are 2 images that I created in Stable Diffusion, which is a text-to-image AI generator, to depict the pain and suffering that our festival was experiencing during the pandemic. The prompt that I used was, burnt out and exhausted, festival makers are depleted of energy and facing bankruptcy in the heat of a pandemic. In the style of Otto Dix, who is a German expressionist painter. I figured it was appropriate for while I'm in Berlin to include that. But in any case, we were in dire straits, suffering from a lack of funding. We couldn't present shows in the way we wanted to. We had a curfew in Montreal during the pandemic, so that put a whole wrench into everything. So we were really not doing well. And as a result, a group of Canadian festivals, mostly based in Montreal, including MUTEK, banded together and created this open letter that was directed to the Canadian media as a cry for help. And the thesis in this open letter really emphasized that keeping cultural infrastructure intact, aka running these festivals that people know and love and go to every year, requires so much more from keeping up with trends and giving people cool programming. So the question that we were asking ourselves behind the scenes was, how can festival makers build resilience, expand accessibility and inclusion, while minimizing the environmental footprint of cultural production? And beyond this, we were talking about, what is the future of festivals, but more specifically, is there a future of festivals? So we decided to put together this research group and think tank called Future Festivals, which we've spearheaded, but we've banded together a cohort of international festivals to work with us so that we can come together and collaboratively imagine what these gatherings might look like in a better future ahead. And our goal within all of this is to kind of come together and discuss shared problems and challenges, and from there to prototype solutions, from immediate and easy, more low-hanging fruit options to more ambitious, sustainable, and long-term measures. And there are different pillars that relate to this project. The first one is our partners. So we've put together a cohort of partners in Canada, Mexico, and Europe. And we've chosen these partners based off of different kind of funding infrastructure that they have, but also different curatorial practices. And together we've gotten together for a series of lab sessions. And the Future Festival Labs will take place over a period of 18 months. And we kind of go on tour to these different festivals that are involved. And in each city, we come together for a series of roundtable discussions and workshops where we talk about some of the issues that we're currently facing and some solutions for what we want for an ideal future of festivals. And I wanted to share with you some of the present challenges and ideal future notes that so far we've discussed in our sessions, because I think it's really interesting that no matter where we are in which country, we see the same issues coming up again and again. So quickly, I'll walk through them. But capacity. So previous slide, please. So capacity. We are all facing, no matter where we are, staff burnout, brain drain, and also a lack of systems in place to be able to effectively produce knowledge transfer within organizations. Community, we're seeing a lack of diversity in the audiences that we're trying to attract. Equity, diversity, inclusivity on and off the festival stages. How do we make our festivals more diverse behind the scenes? Funding, it's different in every market. In Canada, we are very lucky to have generous support from the government for arts, but we still interact with issues all the time with operational and grant funding and project funding that leads to burnout, as well as the universal skyrocketing prices of basically about everything, but specifically real estate. And sustainability, which is what we're talking about today as well, which is really important. So a major issue that all of these festivals are having is how do we continue to produce and offer programming and experiences with this glooming climate crisis that we just can't ignore anymore. And with these challenges, we started to think about ideal futures. And these are some of the ideas that we have floating around right now. So abundance. What if we had UBI-like financial support for artists and cultural workers that allowed us to create festivals a little bit more comfortably? Accessibility. This is really important. How can we create programming for everyone? We're thinking about implementing or brainstorming new type of mandated accessibility standards across festivals, as well as new mixed reality formats to enhance accessible measures. accountability? What are some new open governance models and ways that we can enhance greater transparency for how festivals are being made? Collaboration, how do we work together? How do we work horizontally? Can we mutualize our resources? And how can we work together to create better knowledge transfer systems? As well as resilience. So we're exploring new membership models for festival attendance, pay what you can models as well, so that people can afford to come to these festivals. And what are some ways that you can engage in ethical private sector sponsorship? And of course, sustainability in the more ecological sense, which would require festivals as leaders. We have, as festivals, the opportunity to lead because we are so on display and so public. So how can we engage in greater circular exhibition and green event practices? So our project will culminate in a future festival summit, which you are all invited to. It will take place at MUTEK's 25th anniversary in Montreal next summer from August 20th to 25th. And we will be hosting a bunch of different activities related to capacity building, sustainability, all of these different issues that we're encountering right now in our labs. And we'll also be including interesting artistic interventions and performances. And then based on all of the conversations that we'll be having at the summit, we will produce a handbook and toolkit that will be distributed afterwards. Next slide, please. And now I would invite you to take out your phones and please scan this QR code as we are conducting a survey right now for the next few months. This survey is open not only to festival makers, but also to festival fans, which I would assume all of you are festival fans here. And we are doing a scan on why you attend festivals, but also what you would like the future of festivals to be. It takes 7 minutes, and the results will be shared afterwards, so you can keep up. And right now, it is available in English, French, and Spanish, not German, I'm sorry. Next slide. We also have a field guide that we're working on with a media partner named Hollow, who is actually based here in Berlin. And they have been following along with our lab series to document all of the conversations that we've been having. So if you scan the QR code, you'll come to this beautiful landing page where they have notes, interviews, illustrations based on the conversations that we've had. And that's it. Danke.
Wow.
Danke.
Sarah. No, the whole thing in German, please. Okay, so I guess it's my turn. So let's go on. I also want to stand. Yeah, let us see if we have the presentation. It will come in a second, I know. So this time we're going to inquire into something which is a little bit more techy and nerdy. It will be all about digital arts organization and the festivals, also with all the new media art at their core. The project I will present now is called Digital Intersection, called DIS in short. And I'm going to use a magic clicker, maybe, like this, exactly. So we want to inquire into new ways to build new sustainable business models, new opportunities to inquire this. And I don't do this alone together with our partners. We are a consortium of 5 partners from Canada and mainly Europe, as you can see here on this map. I'm going to go into all of them. That's Chronique. They are here in the first row in case you have questions to them later on. Biennale des Imaginaires Numériques, based in Marseille and Aix. We have the next slide, please. That was Chronique. The next slide will be then the Kick Festival in Namur in Belgium. They just finished their edition. One of the best also festivals here in Europe. The next one will be Signal in Prague. Some of you might know it. Wonderful light and digital arts installation. The next partner will be based in Zagreb, Croatia, and that container, very edgy, very political, very, very interesting also what they do. And last but not least, in Canada, in Montreal also, Chromatic, which is a project by actually a digital agency for huge digital art pieces called Massive Art. You might know them. And well, It's us also, but I already said a couple of things about us before, so I'm not going to get into this, the Catalyst Agency. So the goal of the study, please, is to identify, as said, the business and financial challenges on the one hand, but then also to look into new operational models for the digital arts institutions. So we did some research, we did some surveys. I think we reached out to nearly 400 organizations. We did in-depth experts interview to really super high level. We did some research. We did some workshops. We still do group workshops together with our partners to develop a prototype, and we disseminate and do some industry events. So I think that we have quite a few things here that we can present. So, next slide, please. This is the result of the report. It is brand new, so in case you want to know everything about sustainable and innovative business models for digital arts organizations, this is what you want to scan, because it will be what we... and there will be also a great report which will be compiled soon, but if you scan this, you will know and you will be kept informed. Now, the goal of that presentation will be to share the key suggestions and recommendations. And next slide, please. It will be first about the ecosystem background. So we did a SWOT analysis, so to speak, and we actually moved into like the strengths of these organizations. I mean, and I think it is also for you festivals. I mean, most of the time, you have a great human capital, you are passionate, you are audience-oriented, you are multidisciplinary, so that's great. I think it also applies to you. At the same time, on the weakness side, it's always like totally overloaded. I mean, time management is really an issue. Planning is really, really heavy. You have a monetization potential that you don't always look into. I mean, cash is a problem, and the audience outreach has also a lot of challenges. But also the opportunities are there, and for new media art festivals at any case, there are new opportunities in the hybridity with experience-based environment. The digital shift is super interesting with the opportunities with AIs also. On the threats level, I mean, there are quite a few threats, but like financial instability and all the changes also in the audiences. And we had a little bit about young audiences before, so that's really interesting. So how to navigate this ecosystem? Well, first of all, we said we have to demystify the money aspect. The first big learning was talk about money. And the joke, the running gag in our agency is like when I talked about sustainability in the economical sense with the festivals, I mean, I would have a meeting with them and they will look at me and say like, did you say business? Did you say we are a non-profit organization? Did you really talk about business? And they would cringe. I'm like, yeah, let's talk about money, because it's not really a problem. And we should really inquire into this and maybe also see that art is really something which is different. And I mean, I think also of you being in charge of music festivals, also artistic festivals and etc. Yes, art has a different value. It's not a product, it's not a service, but still, it's not necessarily compatible with business, sort of, but at the same time you want to live out of it, right? So there is an opportunity to redefine the word business model for the creative sector, but maybe talk about a valuation model or maybe a sustainability model. This is valuable, really. And then maybe it makes it a little bit more attractive. Next slide, please. Very often we also heard sustainability can wait or can't wait. So that's why we have both here. It can't wait, that's for sure. I think we understood that very well also with the former presentations. Basically, what can we say? First of all, we say, well, sustainability is economic and ecologic and social. And the recommendation we would do there would be definitely rethink growth. And also be informed. Check the resources related to sustainability and how you can connect with the people who have been compiling data, and see also how can you contribute with them. You can also think of joining forces with other events, share knowledge, have a collective approach, so to speak, and then see, does it bring more collaboration opportunities? Does it save time and money also? This is a way to be more sustainable. And also, you can put pressure on clients and partners so that they can really adopt an attitude which is more sustainable. Next one will be to make the experience of the most of the experience-based economy. We were interviewing Chris Ball of Christie's, and he was basically saying, like, you know, we are dealing with audiences. They have been traveling all the world. They move from Singapore to Sydney and etc. I mean, what do they want to collect? I mean, there is an imperative to be more digital anyway, so there will be a sort of more hybridity approach also. Yes, experience, but at the same time, yes, more digital. So that's really interesting, and it leads us to the next one: embrace this hybridity. Do something out of it, and seize the digital potential. And it's all about digital literacy, because it is the future of works, economic, and the social capital that we have today. So I'm going to skip the next two slides. The next one would be then to collaborate. So collaborate, yes, I said already you can save time and money with collaboration, but it's more than that. When we were actually inquiring into the mindset of the digital arts organization, they were saying they're not so much into inquiring into art stacks, blockchains, metaverses, NFT or DAOs, which is really interesting because they have to do with digital arts, right? But they were totally keen on see the new stakeholders' constellations. And I think this is a great indicator. So collaborations for all new kinds of funding, maybe collaborating with tech companies, but also with other various institutions and funding sources. Which brings us to... Sorry, I wanted also to say, for collaboration, it's interesting because they don't see competition like competition. And I think I see this also in the festival landscape. Other festivals are competitions, obviously, but at the same time, there is a lot of co-opetition and sharing also good practices. And I think the fact that there are also here surveys happening and that there is this conference also to speak about best practices is also an indicator for that. Yes, we can jump about the next one. I already said that. And then the last one is simply take on the future and take it as is. There is no way to resist against that. There are long-term cycles of changes. We are surfing that wave all the time. Consider the sustainability parameters, reach out to new audiences by building community, ensure access, I think we heard that before, and also a great participation with that. So this is, the next one is all of it together, and then the last slide will be, let's keep connected, because it is only the first step of this project, which will finish only in 2025. So we will keep you posted if you're interested about the news, about the prototype we are building, sort of a new platform probably, and there will be a toolkit also to self-assess yourself and see how you can build your own sustainable business model. So if you want this, you can photograph this, you can stay in touch with us. Thank you. I think, 10 minutes. So, going back to my moderation. Okay, so let's have a little round with you, and I think I'm going to take a step back here and listen to each of you, and I will have to have a very quick first round with the question, what do you think are the top 3 key basics elements to secure the festival, so to go beyond the survival mode, so to speak? So what are the 3 things you have on the top of your mind to say, like, this is the 3 basics to go into sustainability? Who would like to start? Stephen? No? You're okay? No?
Yeah, I can. The first word that comes to mind really is to remain relevant, to use your platform in a way that serves people and their passions and interests and the great challenges of our time. And related to that, I was very interested. I see a lot of commonality of some of the way that we understand some of the challenges and what rises to importance. Related to relevance is how do you keep young people like co-creating the experience or caring about festival models? What does it offer to them? How does it shape better citizens in the world? And so continuing to attract like the next generation to these platforms that we create. And then, yeah, I mean, the third one's hard to pick.
Okay, take your time. I can see what would be your basics. Sarah.
Okay, I think having a mindset around sufficiency, less is more, quality over quantity. I think we tend to have this sort of like capitalist mindset of wanting to produce, offer so much to audiences, and that is not necessarily sustainable. And I think that what we're seeing now more and more is that if we can make something that has a lot of integrity behind it, and we can really focus on the authenticity and content that is very substantial, that goes a long way. Accessibility is huge. Providing experiences that are accessible, also being able to provide an experience that is affordable is huge as well. And then community, local programming, working with local vendors. I think that that is at the heart of sustainability ultimately.
Thank you, Sarah. Christine?
Yeah, I think in terms of environmental sustainability, it's really important to remember to have this strategic vision about the festival. At Roskilde Festival, we are very much a doers organization. We are run by thousands of volunteers who do an incredible work. And obviously, everyone wants to create a more sustainable festival. But it's difficult because it's a difficult organization to work with, because normally when you do change management, you can sort of invite everyone into the table from the very beginning. You can't really do that here because we're driven by volunteers who have their regular jobs and they do this as a hobby during the nighttime. And it's really difficult to get this common ground and to everybody agree on doing these more strategic long-term investments. Also because it always takes longer time in the beginning. It costs more money. It takes more time. You have to do things a different way than you're used to. You can't just follow the checklist from last year. You have to do it differently. And it costs money. It costs time. And I think it's really important that festivals insist on also being strategic organizations and not just doer organizations.
Not only the operational organization, yet think strategic. Yeah, that's great. Degrowth we had also in our own study, so I can only confirm, right? Stephen, in case you have a third point.
I think my third one would be
yes?
keeping the emphasis on human relationships over tasks or even what you think you should be doing, and just really keeping it on like a person-to-person relationship building level. And I love your mention of community there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that suits obviously what you do very well. There are many other Burning Mans next to the big one we heard. A couple of them are here in Germany, around Berlin also. I think it's 108 regional and
108 in a normal year. After COVID, 71 came back first, and this year we're looking at probably 92 of those. But they're still coming back.
Yeah, that's great. And you have also thousands unofficial cultural relevant events a year. So co-creation is really the main pillar of the burnout mindset. I would like to know, how do you approach actually the collaboration on such a level, keeping it human to human? How do you do that?
We ask ourselves that all the time. Like, mainly we try to connect people around their passions and interests. And I'm very proud that years ago we made a really dumb business decision, but a great decision to inspire a cultural movement, which is to have standards and principles that guide how we do things, but not require like a licensing fee or an exact way that it must be done. And that has allowed the culture to take many forms in many countries, and for different aspects of the culture to show up in an authentic local way. So yeah, that's part of the answer there, is by keeping the focus on very humanist values and allowing things to evolve on a local level and be meaningful to people and connecting them.
But talking about sustainability, I mean, Burning Man has a very strong IP, to say it in a provocative way also, like a corporate world. But do you think that, I mean, at the end you also need to be competitive, right? Towards also a lot of festivals which are very inspired by the Burning Man also, which are not necessarily part of your own community. So how do you deal with this? Is there a specific vision for your IP as the community asset at the end? What is it?
Yeah, we take a very unusual approach to intellectual property. I think we do enforce IP, and we tend to work really more collaboratively, or we encourage people. I mean, honestly, we have very warm relationships with many festivals. We encourage them to think about things like have a community stage, support emerging and first-time artists and performers. Don't just feature like well-known acts, but always be thinking about how to encourage a global creative scene and first-time human expression. But we manage our IP, though, to protect the culture in a way from being co-opted and turned into a product, for example, to just some well-meaning bars, for example, think maybe we want to have a Burning Man themed dress-up night and drive bar sales. And that's not the idea of what we want to do. Or in some cases, we've had to say, no, you can't create a Burning Man brand of beer. That's not what we want. Or at least that's not our approach to social change and what we really care about. So yeah, our approach to IP is to manage it as a community resource in a way, and just enough that our culture does not become meaningless and a product, but open enough that the ideas themselves can be free.
Yeah, that's a good point. It also joins a little bit what I was saying before, like talking about a business model, which is actually a value model, and then the value comes from the community and as the core asset. So I think it's really nice. Going now more to the ecological part of it, because I think it was really interesting to see this circular lab, what is offered to Roskilde now. So how can one use this model also for themselves? I mean, like for our audience, also to create a sustainable festival. What would you recommend to inspire the people here in the room first? What would be your first recommendation?
Yeah, my first recommendation. I think it's for Roskilde. It has been important to get that knowledge about themselves, that this is not just Denmark's fourth largest city when it's going on. It's actually a platform that can do so much more than that. So I think you have to change the way that you're looking at yourself and your own festival. We are not there to entertain, or we are, but we can do so much more, and we can have more of a also to take responsible for what our guests are meeting at the festival, and take responsibility for how we try to impact them, what kind of impressions they meet, how we create shape dialogues, and what kind of what they meet at the festival. They meet, of course, they meet art, but do they meet art made in a sustainable manner? Of course, they meet food and drinks, but what kind of food and drinks? And can you actually attach a dialogue into that? We have, for instance, we had one of our companies who do coffee cups made out of coffee ground. So the coffee ground actually go back to becoming a cup that you can either compost or reuse. So we implemented these cups in our coffee stalls, but what was really great was that the young guys from the company was there themselves to have these talks with our guests and invite into this dialogue. And I think that's actually what has been most important for us when we have been doing this, because of course we help the companies, we help the startup circular companies, but what we really want to do even more than that is to create use it to create an impact towards our guests, and I think that's important to think about.
Yeah, I like also this idea of to imply the guests and so on, into like thinking about the sustainable futures. Tell me, do you think actually that, is ecological sustainability actually contradictory with financial sustainability?
I think it is the first couple of years. It always takes a lot of money and a lot of time to create a new business strategy and a new business solution, and to find a new to implement new products. For instance, at Roskilde Festival, we have been investing in some really cool sustainable building systems, so that we don't have to go out and buy new wooden plates every year. And it costed some money to do that, but now we have this. It was actually also created by one of our startup companies who figured out to do this solution. It's made out of old wooden floors. And then they made this really cool solution where you can build like everything without using screws and nails, so that you don't break the material. You can put it together really easily and tear it apart really easily. And then you can flat pack it and stack it so that it doesn't take that much energy to store it. So we decided to invest some money in this building system, and that meant that we used more money from our budget that year than we were actually allowed to, but then we are going to use less and less and less and less.
Yeah.
But the problem is that most companies and organizations' budget years are put up like this. You have to you're not allowed to go to red numbers, right, at the end of the budget year. So we have to think about our budgets in a new way. We have to make a new model for that and think budgets over 10 years instead of over 1 year.
I think that's really nice and very inspiring. The thing, like to think differently in terms of your business models and the rhythm, and what do you put now so that it's really like. And I know it's difficult because a lot of festivals, we don't even know who will be there next year. So don't tell me I'm going to plan for 10 years. But I think that, of course, the approach, I mean, of building on this and shifting a little bit with that, I think it can be helpful for the ones who have a more substantial future. Sarah, I would like to turn to you now, and I think it was really nice, this future festivals project. You were talking when you were meeting, it was therapy sessions, right? So that it was cleaning also all these problems and these worries also, right? Which are in the way of sustainability. Can you tell a little bit more? Because I think some great and interesting ideas came out of this, right? Of the community feeling between these festivals sharing, right?
Yeah, so when we did get together for the Future Festival Labs that I was mentioning earlier, as AC mentioned, it really was like group therapy, because it's so rare that we can get together with other people that work behind the scenes for festivals and just completely be vulnerable and share challenges and just listen to to each other and be able to relate also on that level. So it was really helpful in that capacity. But also some of the ideas and some of the thinking that came out of those sessions were really beautiful. We're talking a lot about different ways that we can kind of come together and share resources. So I'll give an example of one thing that our festival is doing, MUTEK. Back in Montreal, we're mutualizing with another nonprofit called the SAT, which is a local media arts institution. And in that process, we're actually going to move into their offices, and we're sharing staff. So we'll share an HR person, for example, and we'll also share equipment. And this is, we'll see how it goes, because it's currently in process. But this is one of the ways that I think that we can avoid burnout and increase capacity, and of course, financial sustainability as well. And something else that we're working on too is greater accountability measures. This year, for the first year, we use this tool called Climate Green, which you input all of your carbon footprint numbers, and we worked with venues, much to their skepticism, because it was very difficult to get them to actually track the amount of waste that was being generated at certain venues. But we worked with venues, and we worked with all of festival stakeholders who were working behind the scenes to track everything. So we're able to put a number behind our carbon footprint. But this takes a team, this takes a vision, and this takes initiative from everybody involved. But this is something that is absolutely realistic to think about in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to come back also to what you said before about accessibility. I would like to know, how do you make sure you create really, for a diverse group of attendees, a welcoming space? How can you make this space accessible? You were enhancing accessibility before. Can you give us a couple of key facts?
Yeah, I think accessibility is super important when we're talking about sustainability at large in all types of different contexts. One thing that we're really talking about right now is how we can make all of our programming more accessible to people. We have now live transcription, live translation measures at all of our conferences. We're experimenting with pay what you can pricing models. So if somebody is a student or somebody can't necessarily afford to come to the festival, how can we still have them there and welcome there from a perspective of affordability? Also, free programming. We do offer a little bit of free programming, but we want to expand that a little bit more. And then also, how do we incorporate diversity into the mix, because all of those things are related. For example, how do we have more diversity on the staff at MUTEK, right? Because it starts from there, on and off stages. And then also, is our programming diverse? Right now, it's actually the most diverse it's ever been. We're about, I think, 52% female non-binary folks on our programming versus 48% male, which is pretty good.
You make a really important point on this, like that the teams have these diversities themselves, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then also just working on different audience development strategies as well, just to make sure that the people coming are also diverse and are also feeling warm, welcome, accessible, and can help the entire ecosystem of the festival sustainable and thrive. So,
great. Okay, so as I would like to give a couple of minutes to the audience in case they have questions, I would like to make a last round, just in 1 or 2 sentences to wrap it up. I would like to know. It's going to be fun. How do you, let's dream a little bit, okay? How do you envision your own sustainability, like economically, sustainably, and socially? How do you envision for each of your festival, how do you envision your future? Who would like to start? Yes, Stephen.
If we really succeed, then we won't need the Burning Man event to exist anymore in isolation from society. It will integrate itself more into daily life. And it would be okay if our festival goes away.
Okay. That's a very philosophical approach, but and sociological also. It's very interesting. Thank you. Christine.
Yeah, I think that we would own our own land. Right now we are borrowing land from the municipality every year, and it makes it really difficult to come in. We have 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after to clean it up, and we are not allowed to change in the in how the area is structured. So owning our own land would give us the possibility of doing something for the biodiversity. And to protect the nature more than it is today.
Thank you. And you, Sarah?
I'm kind of picturing a scenario kind of like The Sims or Minecraft, where everybody has stake and has a role, like community-wise, in building and participating in the festival, and I think that that's really beautiful. So I would love to see more community involvement, in the way that the festival is programmed, but also in the way that the festival is run to a greater extent.
Great. I love these futures. I don't know if you liked it, but I really enjoyed the panel. Thank you so much for all 3 of you. And questions? We still have 7 minutes and 22 seconds. Let's go. We have here a question in the first row, and here also. First row is going strong. Thank you.
Hi, I'm an astronomer. A lot of the places where you have your festivals, you have some beautiful night skies. Astronomy.
Speak really well into the microphone.
Yeah. A lot of the places where you have your festivals, you have some beautiful night skies. Astronomy is a way to reconnect with nature. It's a way to talk about sustainability and also keeping planet Earth safe for us. So have you ever thought about having astronomy programming at your events?
I can speak to that. We've actually had Black Rock City planetariums before. We have had art projects because it is one of the places where when you go out into the desert, you can see the night sky beautifully. You can see meteor showers and falling stars and planets. So that is a part of the experience, very much so, like being humbled and awed by nature in the night sky.
Anyone else? No?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of programming in planetariums and in domes to emulate that kind of experience. One project that we presented at our festival this year, which is not necessarily specifically astronomy related, but nature related, was an immersive XR experience called Animate. It was part theater, part VR or AR, and there were actors involved, and it was a climate emergency story. And it has a little bit of a choose-your-own-adventure kind of vibe to it. But you go through this trajectory, and as you make your way through 6-part installations, you get to learn a little bit about the climate crisis. And we felt like it was a very interesting, kind of immersive, empathetic way to educate people on that.
Thank you. We had a question here in the first row. The very first person there. Thank you.
Hi, and thank you. I'm Julian from Music Declares Emergency, a climate activist in the music industry. And I think this panel was great, but it fell short at 2 points. So in the future, there's going to be, the climate crisis is here already, and it's going to affect your festivals, and you have to adapt. So this is especially about surviving. Like, how are you going to survive with heat waves, with floods coming, and how can you still be you're responsible for the safety of the people there, so how are you going to manage that? And second of all, the second question kind of is, the biggest chunk in any footprint of a festival is audience travel. So are you also working on any strategies to, because it's kind of a paradox, right? You want to grow your festival, you want to reach many people, but they're all going to have to fly there maybe to the Burning Man, you have to drive. So how are you going to work, maybe with communities or with the government or stuff like that?
Too bad I skipped my 2 slides about the metaverse, but because it's not dead yet. But anyway, no, please.
Yeah, that is exactly the right question. And when we looked at our carbon footprint, it's not the burns, that's less than like 2% of the impact, it's the travel, it's all of the travel. So as part of that, really, the way that we think about how could we do things more sustainably, that is exactly where the regional network and all of these regional events that create local versions of the culture come in. So that in our minds, everyone does not need to go to Black Rock City or Burning Man to experience the culture. There should be local versions of it, and in my perfect world, it exists in cities, and we do more to hold spaces for cultural experimentation and cultural incubators in the cities that we live in, instead of them ending up as real estate products, as many of our cities unfortunately have. So I can really relate to your question, and it requires thinking beyond individuality and to a collective kind of identity.
Thank you. I would take a last question, if there is one. Yes, second row, please. Thank you.
Yeah, my question will be more like strategic. If all these festivals that they have more than 50,000 people coming, why they don't do something like a bubble, like a sustainable bubble with 5,000 people, and then they start from it? Because for me, I know that if you are used to production in one way, it's very hard to do it in another way. So I think maybe it's more clever to start with a bubble in a very sustainable way in the same festival as a little part of it, and then from there to grow.
Thank you. 2 minutes to answer this. Who would like to take it on? Christine, please.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And we are, at Roskilde Festival, we have been trying the last couple of years to create zones. So we have our biggest environmental impact comes from the camping areas. And we are very, I think it's also, it's a dilemma that we really try to create the festival together with our guests. And that means that we don't want to be police officers going out saying that you're not allowed to bring that, you can't do that, you have to tear that pavilion down. We don't want to do that. That's just not what our DNA is. So we have to co-create it together with our guests. And what we created together with them was theme camps or zones. We have a large area called Silent and Clean, where you have to, exactly like Burning Man, we have a Silent and Clean and Leave No Trace camp. And these areas has been growing every year. And now they take up half of the camping area, which is on the east side. So we still, and the west side is still as it used to be. And you can really see it when you take a walk through the festival after when it's done. We have these amazing zones with just really green grass, and everything looks amazing. And then we go to the other side of the bridge at the other camping area, and it looks horrible. So the dream is, of course, that we can do this contract with all of our guests, and that they will invest their time and commit themselves to take responsibility for all of our areas.
Yeah.
We're just not there yet.
Yes. I like the word commitment, though. Okay. We are at the end of this panel anyway, so thank you for your questions. Thanks to the tech team to have supported us with the magic clicker. And thanks to our panelists. Thank you very much. And I will use my privilege as a moderator to ask. I was here yesterday at the same time, and they talked in the first row about a field experiment and a survey, and they show a QR code, and somebody asked me something at the same time. So if somebody heard about a survey and a research which is done here starting next January 24 and has the QR code, please come to me afterwards. We have 14 seconds left, so that's good. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.